Patience. So let's go ahead and get this restarted again. So I'm going to go through a couple of PowerPoint slides, talking a little bit more about why network documentation, IT documentation is important for your organization. All right. So again, the agenda for these slides, I'll talk about the impact of bad IT visibility, why it is important to document your networks, what network documentation is not, and why you want to automate the population of network diagrams. Talk a little bit more about the features, the usability. Again, towards the end, I'll be answering any questions you may have. All right. So the impact of poor IT visibility. So why is it important to document your networks, your data centers, office floor plans, telco rooms? It's important because, one, network documentation is really important to find information fast and quickly, especially if you have automated network diagrams, which we can show you how you can do that in NetTerrain. The ability to have fast, up-to-date network diagrams allows you, your organizations, team members to locate information fast and quickly by typing in, for example, an IP address, MAC address, a specific equipment that may be down, find exactly where it is, how does this outage or issue impact your customers internally or externally. So it will help increase faster mean time to repair. It will help you also manage the capacity within your organization. Easily find underutilized assets. We call them like zombie servers, zombie cables. So the impact of poor IT visibility does lead to these type of items. Whether you can try to recover stranded assets, faster deployment of services to your employees and staff, a better way to help network capacity plan, as well as a way to seek for compliance, for example, PCI compliance. We hear that a lot, and why customers come to NetTerrain, for example, to help them pass network diagram and compliance. Again, as I mentioned before, a better way to help decrease downtimes and faster troubleshooting times. So it's time to document the network. Is it really time? So with the proper network documentation, as I mentioned before, the ability to reduce your mean time repair, improve your SLAs, as well as better capacity planning. So how do we document the network today? So we've heard from many organizations that are looking to document their network. So one of the first questions we always ask people is, how do they currently document their network today? Is it through outdated spreadsheets or files? Other diagramming type software programs that are out of date. Some customers also use network monitoring or network management systems. So they do a great job at discovering the network, but does it correlate in regards to troubleshooting? So for example, if an alarm goes down, a traditional network management system will show you the alert, but it really doesn't show anything much. Like, where is this device located? What are the items that may be impacted if this particular equipment goes out? Who owns it? Is it under warranty? How much does it cost? So those are some of the items that you don't get in a traditional network management type systems. So we'll go through more of these in the next couple of slides. So the productivity tools, which is what I hear most of the time a lot of people use, Visio and spreadsheets. How can we get out of documenting diagrams via Visio and spreadsheets. So what I hear from a lot of organizations is that it's usually out of date. So if there's a way to help automate the network documentation, how would that benefit your organization as a whole? Some customers even don't even have anything detailed network diagrams. They have an employee that's been there forever. Everything's in his knowledge, in his brain. So what happens when that person retires or leaves? So we do get calls from customers trying to scramble to find out what's in their network since that guy retired. So again, these productivity tools are out of date, and they're looking for a better way to help automate the network documentation. Corporate systems are very detailed. As I mentioned, I'll say a lot of our customers use a monitoring tool today. For example, like SolarWinds, WhatsUp Gold, CA Spectrum. Some customers also have detailed service desk applications like ServiceNow. So these corporate systems are very detailed, but they lack one thing, which is detailed network diagrams. How do you correlate an outage to where the physical device is located? How does it impact any services or other applications? So bottom line, the productivity tools, they're really good diagrams, diagramming software solutions with no automation. Corporate systems, network management tools, they're really good automation-wise, but they are void in the lack of good detailed network diagrams. So it's time to marry best of the both worlds. And how do you do that? So the holy grail, automatic network documentation. So if you combine a feature-rich, very powerful web-based visualization, web diagrams, with the automation process to reconcile data from relevant data sources. So in essence, you will need a certain feature set, a usable product, and automation. So let's see how we get there. So network documentation means many different things for many other people. So when I say network documentation, for some people, that can mean seeing the racks, the equipment in the racks, and all the subcomponents. For some people, it means cable management. I want to see all the cables inside a data center or telecom room. Other folks wanted to see a network topology type map. Let me see my core routers and switches. How are they connected? Some customers think of network documentation as a way to help visualize their different applications. So, for example, geographical locations. People want to see where their sites are located. They like to see data center rooms, telecom rooms with their racks, and also equipment in the racks. Rack elevation views with device details going all the way down to the subcomponents, seeing the ports, the cards, the slots of particular devices. The ability to do cable inside their data centers, the ability to see port-to-port cables inside the data centers, inside office floor plans, as well as some customers also like to document the fiber strands outside of buildings as well. So these are some of the items that you should think about when taking the network documentation journey. What are the most important items that you want out of a network documentation tool? Is it seeing the assets in data centers? Is it the cables? Is it more seeing the end-to-end circuit LAN records? Seeing network topology type views? Also seeing application type views. If your organization has a lot of AWS, Azure, vCenter type applications, would it be feasible to have a centralized view to view all your network diagrams plus all your virtual applications and cloud applications. Is providing management style dashboard type reports important for your weekly management type meetings? Are these dashboard type reports important for your organization in regards to documenting your networks? So what makes the system usable? Instead of buying a software and become shelfware after a couple of months, how do you avoid that shelfware effect? So what makes the system very usable? It's very easy to use. It's real time. So meaning no more fumbling through spreadsheets or visit diagrams, checking to see if they're when was the last time it was updated. So you can see updated, automated, up-to-date diagrams. It makes the system very usable. If it's fast, meaning that you can search for information within seconds. Is it secure? Is it collaborative? Meaning that can multiple users access the same system at the same time? Can they make comments? Can they collaborate with each other? So these are the items that makes what we feel is a network documentation system very usable. So how do we automate network diagrams? So with our software NetTerrain, we have our own SNMP network discovery. It goes out and finds your layer 2, layer 3, your assets, and your connections. We also have integrations through our REST APIs to many of the leading third-party applications out there. For example, SolarWinds, Spectrum, ServiceNow, Azure, AWS, vCenter. So that's how you can automate the diagrams, either by using our network discovery, the ability to integrate with your third-party management systems. You can also do bulk imports, a one-time import of spreadsheets, visual diagrams. If you have KMZ, KML diagrams, you can also connect through those mechanisms. So bottom line, you can't really afford not to document the network. You need a system that has the usability, the features, and the automation. And bottom line, you really save the money by aligning the IT with the business. So with that said, I will pass this off to Jason. Jason's going to show you just a quick introduction of our software, NetTerrain. And feel free to ask questions again. We'll be going through those questions towards the end of this webinar. Thank you.
Thanks, Fred. So yeah, let me get my screen shared up, and I'll go through our quick demo. If you guys have questions, you can certainly start posting those questions, and we'll get to those at the end. So we'll get those lined up and get you guys out of here. So 1 second. Hopefully you guys see my screen now. So just a quick tour. So again, speaking to what Fred has been talking about, you go to do network documentation, you want to follow some best practices and kind of rules around documentation. For me, dealing with customers, if you hear some sounds in the back, we're getting a pretty good thunderstorm here. So, for me, dealing with in this space for many years and dealing with customers, I think one of the most important things with network documentation is having good buy-in. What I mean by that is, pick up the phone here, from the boss and the boss's boss, because network documentation does take time no matter what, even when you're trying to automate and do discovery and stuff like that. It doesn't matter. There's always some time involved, especially in the beginning, to get things up and running, get a process built. So if you don't have good buy-in from people to allow that process to happen, then there's really no point in starting a network documentation project. I can tell you that right now. And
So just keep that in mind. It was a big lightning strike. So a few other things too is keep in mind the project. Try and keep it in scope. I see a lot of projects where you get a lot of different groups involved, and it started with, hey, we just want to document the core infrastructure, some key routers and switches and things like that, and then it turns into let's document this, that, and the other, and then it just forget it. Too many people involved, too many things going on. Kind of stick to the core, especially in the beginning, because once you get a product that you like, whether it's ours or somebody else's, and you get a process going, then you can sort of apply those rules to other things. So you want to kind of keep that in mind. So our tool is a hierarchical tool, so you can start at a high level and work your way down. You may not care so much about visuals. We're very heavy on the visual side, right? That's kind of what we do, but that doesn't mean there aren't tools out there that are less visual. Maybe you want something that's more like a forms engine, or more like database, just sort of type in stuff and so on. That's fine, whatever fits the bill for your documentation. Fred was talking about, ease of use. You certainly want ease of use, but also easy to get to. Something that's web-based, or something that you can use through SharePoint or whatever, that or something where you can share it, have multiple users, different access and permission levels. That's always handy as well. Your catalog's important if you're doing visual stuff. Catalog meaning your devices, router switches, and so on, buildings. Just having a flexibility that you can change them and update them, but also limiting who has access to that. It's very important to keep those things sort of under some sort of control. You don't want just anybody coming in and making changes as far as how things look, or the objects, how they look in fields, and so on. So again, I'm sort of navigating down into a hierarchy here. I'm showing more of a data center type view with different equipment. You see a background image. It's a floor plan I've uploaded. I think it was a JPEG or something I used to upload. All the other things are basically racks. So I have some freestanding equipment too with our tool. We don't sort of lock you into one thing, but go into, let's say, this cabinet, get down to the level where you actually see, power supplies, devices, etc. Level of detail, again, that's part of the project. Do you want to get down to the port level? Do you want to show rack elevations, or you care more just about logical drawings, which is fine. The nice thing about physical, you can sort of get into building what we refer to as a CLR, or physical path view or diagram, so you can see end to end. This is showing end to end. Shows a port on one end and a port on another end, and then equipment in between. So you imagine, you're sitting in a data center and you're like, here's a port one of some device in some rack, and you're looking at it going, where does this connect to? Well, that's what this is really showing you. Of course, you have to have that data in your system, but then it can draw or create this pathway once you have all those connections in. So that's what this is showing you. But again, this may not be as critical to what you're trying to do. Maybe it's more about a logical type drawing, or again, just trying to keep it straightforward as far as some core or key elements to what you're trying to document or do. Let me go out here and we'll get up to a logical type drawing. Go over here on the left. So we have some different logical drawings here. There we go. So the other thing too, in our tool, we do have a relationship between logical and physical, or you can take advantage of that. What that means is you might have an object that looks like a logical object. We're using what we call a visual override for this, but if I double click on it, it'll take me to the physical object or device, and I can go back to the logical drawing. So there's a relationship, and those objects are the same. So in the physical and in the logical, it's the same object. So all the data is always equal to each other. So you have to worry about copying and pasting and things being out of sync. They would be in sync. Links, you can have links to represent different things. This particular link, just called logical link, has different speeds and what we call visual overrides, and you have different data fields. Again, sort of best practice. Getting buy-in, I think, first and foremost. Number two is defining what it is you're really trying to do with documentation, and not going out of scope or too far out of scope with what you're trying to do. Three is really defining how you want things to look. Data you want to define, data fields, and so on. Right. So those are sort of three core, I think, elements. I think the fourth one is certainly the data itself. All this data you're seeing here in a project is can be time consuming to bring in. So you have to decide, do we have data? If we don't, how are we going to get it? Do we have to do an audit and things like that? So data import is something else you want to decide or think about on the front end. Do we have good data? What systems can we leverage? You may have a lot of systems that have good data, and you can take advantage of those network monitoring systems, management systems, discovery, and so on. Take all that data and bring it in. We have ways of bringing in that data, anything from Excel import to doing a connection via APIs to other systems and so on. So you want to bring all that data in. I think the last thing I'll mention, and we're going to see if there's any questions out there, is with respect to sort of best practice, and that's set up, but then using it, getting those processes in place, but also getting training on the front end, making sure you have at least one person or a couple of people that know how to use the system and kind of get things moving for you and keep things moving forward. I see a lot of projects that sort of you get a lot of movement, even over a couple years, doing great things. It's really working out and well, but it's really just one person that's kind of in charge of it, which is fine. But once they leave, you have to have that transition plan and have somebody else that knows the system and can use the tool or keep using it. But you can have multiple users too, so that's always a good thing. So if you have questions around any of these things, just let us know. But hopefully that give you a quick overview of sort of best practices. Let me stop my sharing here and just see if there's any questions out there. I don't see anything as of yet. Yep. Nope. Let me give you guys a second to see if there are any, or anybody wants to post anything. And then if not, we'll end this. We do, just as a side, also you can do logical, physical. We do outside plant as well. So if you need to show, cables and strands and manholes and all those things, that's an option. We have different ways of sort of licensing all those things. So if you don't need all that, it's fine. Sort of pick and choose what makes sense. But I don't see any questions coming in. So thanks everybody for your time. Really appreciate it. And again, if you need anything or have questions, just email us or give us a shout. Happy to talk to you and see if we might be the right fit. So take care.